Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor with an update on the Ellen DeGeneres story. It looks like Ellen's going to be fighting back, and she might not be going anywhere, at least not for the time being, because she did a recent staff meeting via Zoom to her staff yesterday afternoon, where she fired some big-level producers based on this investigation by Warner Media, and she was near tears apologizing again to try to make amends for some of the wrongs that she's been doing, that the environment that she has her name on has been doing. So I want to break down this report that came in from Variety. There's a lot to break down, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts as we do it. But this was the big headliner, that she's now ousted 3 of the top producers, which was sort of expected, but clearly important that she finally officially did it. And we should be clear here. I got to be objective on all sides. These 3 producers deny wrongdoing. They do. They say it. Many staffers have come forward and say they were the problems. But each of these staff members deserve their own due process as well. But we got to go off of what we got. And clearly Ellen is, in the investigation, are pointing their fingers at these 3 individuals and not anybody else. So they've overhauled its senior production staff. Ed Glavin, Kevin Lemon, Jonathan Norman have been ousted from the Warner Brothers distributed syndicated strip following damning allegations raised by BuzzFeed and Variety. Ellen's veterans producers Mary Connolly and Andy Lassner and Derek Westervelt will remain at the show as executive producers alongside host DeGeneres. Connolly, Lassner, and Westervelt have been there since the beginning of the show in 2003. The news was delivered Monday afternoon, like I said, during a staff meeting. She spoke via video conference, and she was emotional to the point of tears and apologetic as she addressed more than 200 staffers. According to multiple sources, DeGeneres told the staff she was not perfect and realized that in the effort for the show to run as a well-oiled machine, sometimes leaders were not as sensitive to human beings as they should have been. She added that reading disturbing allegations about the atmosphere of the show was heartbreaking. I want to talk about this first, because this, to me, is the biggest issue, and this is where Ellen is most guilty. She created an environment where her staff, her high-level execs who did the day-to-day, had to keep this ATM machine, which is what this is. It's a prints money. It's just when you get successful at that level of Ellen, sponsors, everybody wants to be on that show, commercials, etc. It's now easy to produce, becomes cheaper and cheaper to produce, and so it just prints money and success, just like Oprah used to do, and now Ellen sort of reined in. And so, there's a lot of just like batting a blind eye to sort of issues. And lower level employees that are coming in and out, they don't really care, because look, do it the way we want to do it, or get out of here. Like, we know how this works. You either step in line or you're out. And, that doesn't make it right, but that's sort of what it is. And I think she assumed that was happening. I really do think she just assumed that was happening in a way that was probably standard at that level, that nothing really bad was happening. It just maybe was difficult. Expectations were high, and she sort of let everybody keep doing their thing to keep the ship moving, to keep the money coming in. And I do think she has to take some accountability for sort of distancing herself or ignoring complaints for as long as they had. Look, any company that has that kind of turnover, in and out, in and out, in and out, and eventually it'll catch up with you. Because people will say it's a terrible place to work. When you have that many disgruntled ex-employees, they can unite and create this environment. So it's a lesson to learn, I think, for any celebrity, any business. Always, always, always do your best to treat all your employees respectfully. And if you're not getting along with an employee, do everything you can to try to make amends. And then if you can't, you let them go. Or you help them attempt to, go out on their own terms. In this case, it seems like it blew up to a place, because even as she says, the reading the disturbing allegations was heartbreaking. This was a well-oiled machine, but the leaders were not as sensitive, because this isn't a machine, it's people. These are real people that need to be worked with. So I think that was a key part. And again, I don't have her specific quotes. No one's released a transcript of that meeting, but it seems pretty clear that that's the main issue that I'm glad she's finally coming to terms with a bit more. And she's going to need to do this more in like a public Oprah-like interview. Absolutely. She's going to have to come forward and do more damage control, whether she does it on her show or other shows, but sort of really coming to terms with like, look, I lost my way on this, and I assumed we were doing it the right way. And a lot of things I found out were happening that I didn't know. And I feel terrible about it. I think that's how she can make this right. Did she know more than she's alluding to? Look, she's saying she didn't. We got to go off of that. And no one's really said she did. Even most of her staffers in that BuzzFeed article say, well, we assume she has to know. And I think that's the sort of the biggest, assumption we can make as people. But she says she didn't. So, all right. So keeping on going then, once we got through that, DeGeneres even went so far as to note that the show has at times alienated staffers and even guests by shifting shooting timetables on short notice. She vowed to stick to agreed upon timetables to make the production process smoother. Now, this is just sort of a technical excuse. I'm sure she did more alienating than just scheduling, let's be honest, Ellen. At the same time, at least she's attempting to acknowledge, yes, I've clearly alienated people. But more on her behavior comes in a bit. At the same time, during the meeting, Connolly and Lasner addressed the results of the studio's internal investigation, which is odd because Lasner should be investigated too. You'd think all of these guys should have been investigated. So then shouldn't the person who did the investigation read it? Anyway, Lasner's a very close friend of Ellen's. You got to keep that in mind. Like, he's the one who's, if you go, he's like stands behind her during the show. And if you really want to see an inappropriate moment of Ellen's and Andy's, go watch this video. I'm not going to play because they'll ding me, but it gets a little weird. But clearly you can tell just from this clip they have a very close relationship. He even admits the whole bit they do here is, tell me something I don't know, Andy, because I know everything. So again, it just, when you really watch the show and you know these two and everything else, like, clearly they're tight. Clearly they knew everything. And if Ellen didn't know, okay, maybe, how would Andy not have known? And then Andy let it happen, so therefore you let your boy let it happen. It's a tough one for me, because it's like, if you're going to cut the other guys out, why aren't you cutting them all out? They all were aware, and no one was doing anything about it. But for her to play, oh, I didn't know, and neither did my friend who works with them. If I'm going to complain about one thing, it's that one. But we digress. After interviewing 100 people connected to the show and the probe, they found that there was no evidence of systematic racism on the show, although there was acknowledgement that more needed to be done in terms of diversity, inclusion. This is sort of a safe answer. At the same time, I'm sure there was not systematic racism. I'm sure there just was jerkiness. I'm sure there was ignorance on set, and they need to be more aware of not making dad jokes. Like, systematic racism, were there some racist jokes? Potentially, sure. But this idea that the whole system was built to keep, minorities down, I didn't believe that was happening. That seemed like a stretch, even in the allegations I read. At the same time, it cleared they needed some diversity training. Those producers did, especially, and apparently they vowed that they will, including Ellen, will participate in diversity inclusion workshops. And the host announced that the show's resident DJ, Stephen Twitch, was promoted to executive producer. Now, this is interesting. Again, speculation, conspiracy theory, whatever you want to call it, because it's my job here to give you my opinion. Twitch was pretty quiet when all this came out. And Ellen's previous DJ, who I forget his name, but was there for a very long time, he came forward in solidarity with the staff, saying, yeah, he did witness the abuse, the toxic environment, and that he stood with them, and that he's glad to see that things are changing. So the first guy basically threw her under the bus. And now here was her co-host, Twitch, who hadn't really said anything. And now, and then recently, he supported her. I think a few days ago, he finally supported her. But it makes me wonder if his agents or somebody was like, "Yeah, he'll support you if he's got more credit and a better payday," because the timing of Twitch getting this is a little suspect. Or maybe it's a reward for, having her back finally. But good for him. But it's weird when someone's like, "Yeah, no, nothing was problematic. Oh, I just got a raise." But it is what it is. Also, take this all as you will. It's for you to make your own decisions, guys. Warner Brothers declined to comment on the specifics of the investigation. Sources said DeGeneres and other producers did not take questions from staffers who are still working remotely. DeGeneres is said to have vowed to meet in small groups with staffers once the health threat of the pandemic has passed. It's interesting she doesn't just do that now. Zoom can do small meetings. What are you doing? You're waiting. You should be doing that right now. Hey, guys, I want feedback. Talk to me face to face. Hey, guys, I've heard, honestly, right? There's a big problem and you want your staff to trust you. You have to be more available to them. You have to now open up. You have to listen to them. Something she doesn't want to do and hasn't wanted to do is talk to the lower level staff. But have your team set up 25 people. That was 200 people in the meeting. So that's 8 meetings of 25 people that you do for a half hour that you schedule in once a day for the next couple weeks, and you get it done. And that way, you take the notes. You have one of your producers there take the notes for you. Apologize to each team and say, hey, you got to do it. And now she's saying she's going to do it later. Okay, fine. They are starting sooner, but in September. But don't push that off, Ellen. Get to it. I hope she does do that, and I hope that'll give the staff more, because even if if I was in this environment and I heard all this stuff, I'd be worried. And so you want to give your staff more assurance. So if you want to do those breakaway sessions, do it now. The show faced criticism for its lack of diversity on its staff, something the studio has promised to address. So now, they're going to hire some diversity because they are told they have to. Good, I guess. The departures had been expected ever since Glavin, Lemon, and Norman were cited in the July 30th published story about allegations of all these stuff, misbehavior. Now they've been terminated. Sources close to the situation said they're also out of her other shows, including Game of Games. And the show has now pushed back its 18th season debut a few days to September 14th. That's clearly going to be a big viewer gator. In response to the complaints that found their way to the media reports, Warner has established a dedicated HR representative for the show and a hotline for complaints. DeGeneres told staffers she had hoped to address them sooner, but was told not to while the investigation was in process. DeGeneres, that's probably true. She probably couldn't respond or do anything until they're like, no, just shut up. Let us do our investigation. We don't want you to do anything until we have more information. DeGeneres responded to the persistent rumor that staffers and guests were told not to address her or even look her in the eye if they encountered the host on set or in the office on the lot. She called that crazy and not true, although she also described herself as an introvert. She apologized to anyone who felt disregarded, according to multiple sources. And I can relate to this. Not everybody is as nice as I've never been as nice as I want to be. And when I say nice, I just mean open, friendly. Hey, how's it going? I forget names. I'm so bad with names. So I just sort of avoid names or avoid remembering. And then as I've gotten older, like my short-term memory has gotten worse and worse. In my last few years at Screen, I really just, I was losing things. And so my point being, like, I just can relate to that. I know sometimes it's because you don't know the grip's name doesn't mean you aren't the nicest guy in the room, right? Just because you just aren't, that's not who you are, and you can't remember things and you try your best. One would say you should make a point, write it down, really learn and do it, because that staff is what's important. And if you're not there thanking them and knowing who their kids and their wives and everything else, like, then you're not paying attention. You are disregarding them. So that's something she should work on. It's something you can work on. I think a lot of people have to work on, but I'm glad she's taking accountability for that one too, because I think that's something that I do believe is probably something hard for her. That's hard for anybody to sort of admit. Yeah. And so good for her. DeGeneres repeatedly emphasized that she was proud of the show's success and its ability to spin off additional programs like Game of Games. She also expressed gratitude to staffers, many of whom have been with her for the entire run. That's a lot of people haven't been there the entire run, to be fair. She insisted the show would come back strong next month. This will be the best season we've ever had, she said. So, look, what's really happening? I don't know. I don't know what's really happening. This report does what's been leaked feels like it's stuff that would be leaked on purpose, let's be honest. And the staffers that were on that call who don't want to get fired and want to keep their job, clearly they're not leaking it, it seems. So who knows what's really going on behind the scenes, to be fair. Got to open up all ideas. But my takeaway on all this is I do think Ellen is trying to obviously fix things. It does seem she's trying to take some more accountability. And this is the first step where I think that'll help. Because, look, I don't believe in cancel culture. I don't. But I absolutely believe in people needing to take accountabilities for the wrongs they've made. The question I have on this one is, this is about Ellen. If the producers did stuff and the investigation found that out, that's for them to figure out. They deny it. The producers deny any wrongdoing. They have to sort that out. Maybe there'll be lawsuits. They have a lot of money, I imagine, so there'll be lawsuits probably as well, unless they can't because they know what they did was true. That'll all sort itself out, and so I hope they get to do that. Regarding Ellen, which is sort of the big thing here, she's the public face and the one who's taking the pounding in the press. I still don't know what she did aside from not paying better attention or not, or she's just batting a blind eye to a toxic work environment. To me, that's what she's been guilty of. Has she been snarky and sort of, mean to Dakota Johnson in some clips? Sure. But that's not career ending. That shouldn't be cancel worthy. If she has a little bit of an attitude or she's a bit of a jerk, just don't watch her. Don't go on her show, right? The abusive set, toxic environment, that's the thing. Did she know? To me, is still the thing we're trying to figure out. And the truth is, she must have known a little bit, right? And she must have just ignored it. And she's sort of acknowledging that. But where I'm sort of really hung up is Andy Lasner, who I don't know the guy. I just know he's a comedian, writer, very vocal supporter of Ellen's, and they go way back. How did he not know? And so why does he get a pass if you're cleaning house? That's the only question I'm still confused. It's like, if you want to clean house, you should clean house. If you're going to let Ellen scapegoat everybody, then scapegoat all of them. But this seems a little bit more like favoritism, if you ask me. So what do I know though? That's just me. I know. Offer my insight from my business acumen, my experience through Hollywood. There's clearly more to the story that we don't know. I will keep reporting it to you as I find out. But the takeaway here is she's fighting back. She's going to be back on air. And you know what? Good for her. She should. No one deserves to be destroyed based off of allegations. Look, it's not to say I don't believe the BuzzFeed article, but I don't know if I believe Ellen is responsible for the abuse. You know what I mean? And that to me is the big difference that I think everyone online and the haters are ignoring. A lot of people are just saying, well, yeah, she's responsible to her show. Okay, yeah, but did she actually abuse anybody, or was it the other staff members? You know, that to me is the biggest problem. And so should Ellen's entire career, all the good Ellen has done, all of her friends who are like, we should just write them all off because she had a staff that she just sort of assumed was doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And, she finds out, no, they were actually pretty terrible bosses. I can't blame her like everyone else is. So I got Ellen's back on this one at the end of the day. I do think she needs to keep doing this accountability. She should do some more interviews. She's got to keep us in the loop and be honest with the staff and with the public to really make it seem like, not make it seem like, but to show us that changes are being made and that she's changing herself. Everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody deserves a chance to adjust how they act, and let's give it to her. Let's see what happens. And hopefully the staff will be happier because of it. And then everybody gets to keep their job. And she gets to help fix her name and she gets to learn. That's what we should be focused on, everybody. That's what's so frustrating to everybody who's hating on her. Where do you want her to go? What do we do with these people who make mistakes? We can't educate them. We can't allow them to fall down and get back up and then help them learn how to be a better person. That's why this topic of cancel culture is so important to me and why I cover it a lot, because not a lot of people want to take this angle. They don't want to because they're afraid, right? And we shouldn't be afraid. I'm grateful that Kevin Hart and the celebrities that did come forward to have her back did, because they're loyal. They know the person, her heart. They know she's not that person. So why shouldn't they be able to come forward? This isn't about class to me. Yes, it's harder because she can't really be canceled because of how much money she has versus other people, lower people who are trying to make it still work. But we got to take that out. Like, she's a human being at the end of the day. Doesn't matter what the amount of money is. Any human being deserves a chance for redemption and betterment. And in that regard, I support Ellen, and I'm glad she's fighting back. We shall see what happens. Thanks so much for watching. You can subscribe. You can follow me down below at social media at Andy Signor. Join the Popcorn Planet family. It's been growing. I'm so grateful to all you guys who've been finding us. So hit that subscribe and watch another video while you're here. Just click one of these boxes. Thanks so much, everybody. See you soon.